This video is for step number 20, site textures and components. So as you can see, I've already added my textures to my site with using grass, concrete, asphalt, and the pathways are a variety of tile, concrete, ground cover. You don't have to use the exact name for whatever your material is. You can use others. For example, I think I used granite for this and it looks good. So I also played around a little bit with the textures by editing them. So you already know how to apply the textures by going up to your materials tab in your default tray and going to select, and you can go to landscaping, and I think I used this one here, asphalt stamped brick, for this first pathway here. And then I went to edit and I made it a little darker here, and I think I might have changed the scale here. So play around with this, and to get maybe a complementary color, you can go to your settings here and play around with these a little bit. You can always pick this to undo any unwanted changes and start fresh. So these are different categories here. Here are the primary colors. So for right now, you can play around a little bit with that, or just leave it the way it is when you find it in your categories up here. So if I drop down to brick, cladding, and siding here, you can see that I think I used this one here for this wall back here. And I think I used maybe another one here, or let's see, I'll go to maybe stone. For the street, you can just go to asphalt and concrete, and I used this one here, I believe, for the street. And for the concrete here of the sidewalks, I think I used one of these other ones here. Now if you use this one here, it'll give you a simulated concrete line that represents the expansion joints, but I decided not to use that. It's up to you. Whatever you want to use, that's fine, as long as it kind of makes sense. Okay, so you already know how to do that. The other part of this assignment is to bring in some components to add to your site. So in your site plan, I'm going to collapse this and go to my tags here. The site plan I'm going to turn on, so you can see that you have a symbol here that represents a tree, and when you see that in the site plan, that's the location of the tree. Now this other little symbol here is a lamp post. So what I want you to do is to bring in a tree and a lamp post, and possibly maybe a car if you would like one on your street someplace. So make sure that you turn on the site plan, and the very first thing you should really do with this whole thing here is to add the tags that you will need. And in this case, you will need a landscaping tag, or what I've done, I just made a trees tag. And also for the lighting, the exterior lighting rather, I've added another tag here. So I've actually already added that, but I'm going to go through the steps. I'll show you what I did, and I'll turn these on. Okay, so I just added some trees and some light posts, but I'm going to turn those off and go through the steps for you. And there. Okay, so as I said, you want to turn on your site plan so you know where the trees go, and also the lamp posts. In bringing components into your model, there's a couple of different ways. If you're using SketchUp through MySCC and the 284 desktop, what I recommend you doing is to open the toolbar of SU Podium. So if you don't have it docked already, you would just come up here, right click in the gray area, and pick on Podium version 2.6. So your toolbar will appear here. I'm just going to leave it there for right now. And the only thing that we're using in here is this second to last icon here called the Podium browser. So again, if you're using MySCC, this is the best place to go. So I'm going to pick on that, and I'll update it later, so I'm just going to close this. I'm using this from my desktop at home, so I'm not using it from MySCC. And what I've noticed is that there might be a few little changes here when you're using it in MySCC. So if I say go up here to these 9 squares and you don't have the 9 squares, you might have a browser already docked there on the side. So regardless, if you don't see the categories, if you scroll down, you don't see really any categories except holiday, office, vegetation, decoration, coffee, living, exterior, and that's it. But there are more. So if you have the little squares, go ahead and pick it. And you'll see these in a different format or setting here if you're working through MySCC. And for the light fixtures, we want to go to Light Fixtures Exterior. And that will be for our lamp post rather. So again, you'll see the categories here: floodlight and ground, pole, ceiling. Now, we don't see anything here except maybe floodlights and ground, so you can pick over here and keep on going and see what there is available. There's a lamp post you could use. Really, any of these light fixtures here that look like a lamp post. Okay, there's a little bit more modern. Now, these might be pathways. They really don't tell you exactly what they are, just says light fixture exterior. So I'm just going to keep on picking a little bit like this. And I think these are all for landscaping paths. So I'm going to go back over here and maybe pick something like that. So what you can do is to just download it with this little download icon. And when you pick it, and if nothing happens, this is in the way. So minimize this, and you see that there's the lamp post. Or so when you bring it in, I'm not holding my finger down, I'm just moving my mouse around, and I'm going to zoom in and try to put it maybe in the middle right there. Okay, so you can orbit around to kind of check. If you look underneath, if you see a little circle there, that means it's placed correctly on the surface. Okay, so we have to scale these in proportion to our little homes, and this looks a little tall for a pathway, but it might be because of our scale. Now, it looks a little small for a street light, so what we need to do is to scale these either bigger or smaller, whatever the case may be. So in scaling, if it's already selected like that, you can immediately go to Scale, select that, and you'll get all these grips. Now, you can start moving all these around, but it's going to become distorted. So in order to scale this proportionally, you need to use one of these top 4 corner grips. Okay, you can't use this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one. The only ones you could use are the corner ones. Now, when we pick or hover over one of the corner ones, you can see that the opposite corner is selected. Okay, so if I select this one up here, and I'm not holding my finger down, I'm just moving my mouse, and I'm just moving my mouse, you can see that it really is proportionally being scaled up or larger. So you might have to back out of your view again and orbit a little bit and just kind of estimate the height that you might want. So I'm just going to pick there, but if you notice the measurement down here in the corner, you can see some numbers, and those are the scale factors. So if you want it twice as big, you can just type in 2. Okay, so twice as big seems to be pretty good for this little exercise. So I'm just going to pick there, or I can type 2, enter. Okay, now you really don't want to mess with any other grips. Okay, now if you notice, it kind of got off centered from where it should be. So I'm just going to go with the move command and pick there and move it back, and make sure to see on, face, and group before you pick. And you'll know that that is the correct, because you don't want it hovering, you want it exactly on that surface. And again, I'm going to check underneath. I've got a little circle there, and that's good. Okay, so it's still selected while it's all in blue like that. So you can leave it like that. Now we need to copy more of these on these other sites. So what you can do while you're in the move command here is to zoom in real close and maybe pick some piece here that you can pick on all the other ones. And we have all these 3 little circles here. So I'm just going to pick there and then tap my control key. That makes a copy. Go to the next site and pick right there, roughly in the middle of this middle circle here. So it's still selected. I'm going to pick it again, tap my control key, and on I go to the next site. Okay. Now if we had several of these, as in 100, you don't want to spend your time doing this individually. We would figure out the distance between all of those and use an array command, but we just have a few here. But you do want to stay along the red axis line to make them all straight in a row. Okay, so I'm going to deselect that by just picking out here and kind of getting close to it and looking at it, and it looks about the right size. And since they're a component, if you think they're still might be a little too tall, then you can just edit one of them. Now this time, if you do that, you can see that this is a component made out of several components. So you have the glass part, you have the top, and you have the pole. But we want the whole thing, right? So we want to triple pick, or rather pick it and then hold down the shift key, pick this part of it, pick this part of it. I don't know, there might be another part right there. Okay. Now you can see that they're all selected, right? So at this point you can do your scaling, and let's bring it down a little bit by maybe 0.85, enter. Okay. And let's leave it like that. Maybe a little higher. Maybe let me just do 0.90 or something like that, enter. Oops, we do that again. 0.9, enter. Okay. So I think I like that. Okay. Now if you notice, they did all kind of become out of bounds here, right? So what we're going to do before I end this part of it is to group it all. I'm going to select this one, hold down the shift key, right click, and group it. Okay. Now since they're all in a group, I can move the whole group by going to the move command and get real close to this, so you can do this and then right there. Okay, so now that's good, and I'm going to continue this on a second part of the video.